Good morning, friends. Today we are going to learn the next part of the final solution, part 2. In the previous part, we learned about the final solution and his the final solution short story by Manik Bandyopadhyay and Manik Bandyopadhyay's biographical details we learn in the particular part of part first of the final solution, where we learn about Manik Bandyopadhyay's biographical details, how he wrote down the 60 volumes of the stories and novels, and he is one of the stalwart of the partition literature and wrote about the partition experiences in his novels and short stories. Now we are going to learn the next part, the final solution, part second, for your partition literature paper BA second for your semester fourth. See, in the opinion of Suranjan Das, a right is a transformatory as well as historical event. See how the right or the violence is defined here. It shapes and alerts perceptions and aspirations. People are changed their attitudes to each other and their ways of thinking about themselves are transformed. In the light of the above statement, one can easily apprehend the change that occurred in the lives of the people during partition and afterwards. So, how there is a change due to the partition and how the human nature is also changed due to the partition of India and Pakistan. In the story, Manik Bandyopadhyay distinctly recalls the overarching effects of the peace committee, rehabilitation programs, and the inhuman conditions of the refugee camps on the minds of the women survivors. So, in this story, the condition of a woman is described by Manik Bandyopadhyay and it is related to the experiences in the partition at the time of the partition. The story epitomizes the struggle of a female protagonist against a depraved society, capitalist, hegemonic, androcentric, and patriarchal to the core. The story recounts the economic deprivation and uncertainty for the lower classes in the immediate aftermath of partition. It also captures the ruthlessness, the intolerance, and the manipulative nature of the exploiter, the moneylender, or the capitalist. How the moneylender plays a role in this partition literature, and lots of women suffered due to the situations after partition. The story also observes the tendency among the oppressed to accept their oppressor as an inevitable evil of nature, a devil incarnate with a vehement desire to own all, making him a heartless and diabolical person. The story makes subtle remarks on middle class hypocrisies and inconsistencies. The story is remarkable for the articulation of female subjectivity and for rejecting male protection, desecration upon women's body. Malika chooses prostitution to feed her little son, compromising on her self respect and integrity. So, how Malika chooses prostitution, become prostitute for feeding her small child. Malika's husband is a diminutive figure, turns out to be an abject failure, a feminization of her counterpart, incapacitated and unable to sustain his family. Malika's decision to choose prostitution as a means to feed her little son comes as a last resort to be able to fend for her son and family when all doors to finding suitable employment get closed and she finds her family standing on the verge of death owing to starvation. See what kind of situations are created at the time of partition, and uh, those situations are responsible for the deprivation of women characters in the partition. her opting for prostitution as a way to salvage her family from sinking and perishing accentuates her maternal instincts in defiance of her constant humiliation by Pramatha. She is a figure of courage as she thwarts Pramatha's plan to exploit her and other women in their state of helplessness and daringly impedes Pramatha's advances towards her by strangling him to death. So, here we can understand what kind of situations women faced at the time of partition and struggled for their survival in the partition. He final revenge. The final revenge brings an apt closure to the tale of misfortunes heaped on innocent, gullible female victims by spiteful, story-hearted racketeer. Malika's courage in the face of adversities cities wins the hearts of readers as she stays undaunted by the final catastrophe and reaches the final solution through her strong will and presence of mind. So, how this woman struggled in the time of the partition and those experiences revealed by the writer in this particular short story. There are so many incidents related to the partition. If you see the movies related to the partition, one of the best movie which is based on the novel, that is the Pinzer, and the novel by Amrita Pritam. See the character of Urmila Martondkar and how she survived in that particular situations and try to survive her sister-in-law as well. Malika's courage in the face of adversities wins the hearts of readers as she stays undaunted by the final catastrophe and reaches the final solution through her strong will and presence of mind. So, here we can understand how the character plays a vital role in the short story and it depicts the situations of the partition of India and Pakistan. In the opinion of Sukanya Chaudhary, Malika's revolutionary stance symbolizes an anti hegemonic bodyscape to realize her identity. In her retribute action lies her courage to question the dominant forces of the society. She blurts out in rage, I have found an excellent way out. That gangster, he thought he had got me to carry on his infamous going on. What did he take me for? Am I physically weak because I am woman? So this is the described opinion of Malika, and Sukanya Chaudhary criticizes on these particular sentences and try to bring out the theme of a partition, that is the suffering of women as well as the struggling women and in the partition. Malika has a strong sense of self and bravely subverts the gender centric norms by deciding to earn for her family. In her case, mothering results in slow forgetting of the self, yet she never gives up even when she is overwhelmed by anxiety and anguish. In the end, she gains full control over the inner struggle and the outer struggle. See, this is the important part, that is the inner struggle and outer struggle as well. The story documents women's responses to the catalysm episode of partition, sometimes with their willful amnesia of the violation, the appropriation of male roles as breadwinners, as anchors to the family in the state of helplessness, transgression to sustain their family from the state of abject poverty, and adopting changing gender roles and attributes as they flaunt courage, but practically and patience in the extremely intolerant times. So, the women character is described here, and we can understand how the women characters suffered due to the partition. Quite appropriately, the stories stand as a reflection of microcosm in macrocosm. That is, partition was surely just a political divide or a division of properties, of assets and liabilities. It was also, to use a phrase that survivors are use repeatedly, a division of hearts. Urvashi Bhutadia. The particular two words shows us how it is a division of hearts, not the division of the countries. Confronted with violence, Malika turns out to be a heroic figure in the end who doesn't give up in the face of calamities. In her case, brought by devilish capitalist forces hell bent to dispossess and degrade her identity. So, violence created in the partition and how the women characters faced those violence is shown in the this short story, The Final Solution. The final act of retribution should be seen as the possible alternative to the disorder in the absence of the normal, moral, or social order. The ending evokes a sense of shock and bewilderment but has a plausible justification despite its unnaturalness and unexpectedness. In the end, her calm and composed response puts to rest all misgivings about the appropriateness of her conduct. Have you all eaten? We will never be hungry again. Thakurji, never ever. My son will have milk 4 times a day. I will go to the railway station every evening in my frayed sari. The sharks will come to pick me up for sure. But this time I will be carrying a sharp knife with me. You understand, Thakurji? See, here the at the end how the Malika talked about her courage and how she is going to find out solutions for feeding her child and how she said that is the word shark, that the sharks will come to pick me up for sure. This sentence is the important one, and she knows the situations and she get ready to face those situations. So here we end about the particular interpretation of the short story, the final solution and plot of the story. So here are the references. You can uh, see those books and the more references from internet. So we can understand here how the partition literature is very important readings. That is, we can understand the situations at the time of the partition through this short story. In the next lecture, we will see more about the theme in the this particular short story about the narrative technique and the characters and the title as well. Till then, thank you.